Hi, my name is Laine Daniels, and I've just finished my first album down here in Nashville, Tennessee, entitled Outgoing Mail. But it actually didn't begin down here. It actually started quite a few years ago when I was living with my grandma, and she first heard me singing a Ray Price song on the stereo. What I actually would do was grab an amp downstairs from the basement and a microphone that had some reverb on it, and I'd take it upstairs to my bedroom and throw some Ray Price albums on the stereo and sing along with them with the actual amp, so I had some reverb, so it sounded pretty cool. Well, it actually happened where she heard me, and so did my uncle, who was a musician at the time, and another gentleman who was with the band that my sister had actually organized originally, and they heard me singing, and sounded like Ray Price, so they said. In fact, at one point my grandmother had me down in the basement with the band, and she called my mom up on the phone, and my mom heard me singing over the phone, and my grandmother asked my mom, she says, "Who do you think this is singing?" She said. She held the phone up to me while I was singing, and she said, "Well, it sounds like Ray Price," my mom said. And she says, "Well, no, that's Laine singing." And she says, "No, really?" And she said, "Well, yeah." And so that's how it all began, and I started singing with actually a band at a lounge called Clock House down on the south side of Chicago. And they wouldn't let anybody up on the weekends, but they would say that you could jam with somebody like on a Wednesday night. You get different musicians or different singers or whatever, they let people up. So I got up on a Wednesday night, and it turned out that first song that I sang for the audience was a song called "The Other Woman" by Ray Price. And people in the audience were like blown away. Why, I don't know. I would have to say it's because I weighed all of 116 pounds. And this huge voice came out of the scrawniest kid you ever saw. And people were actually really blown away by the fact that I had such a big voice. They were expecting something a lot higher. So that's how it started. And from that point on, from that Wednesday, I actually started singing with the house band. And it was called the Sherry Lynn Show. And from that point on until about 1980, I worked with the Sherry Lynn Show. And we fronted a lot of actually great singers. There was the Shower Stars down in Chicago, down at McCormick Place, and we opened for Dolly Parton one time. I've opened for Tom T. Hall. We opened for Doug Kershaw at a place we worked at, Denny Franks, and even, believe it or not, Elkie Summer. Elkie Summer used to come over from a place called Drury Lane and watch us sing over at the club that we worked at. But that's how it all began many years ago. And from that point on, it's been a passion in my life. I've always sang throughout those years, and I took some time off for a while to raise my family and sit back and think about what I was going to do in the future. And just recently, within the last 6 months, I would say, with my sister's encouragement, Lori Ann, I've come to Nashville to record the first album that I've ever done in my life. And so that's what's brought us here to this point now. She found a great producer down here in Nashville, Tennessee, and so here we are today doing the first album I've ever done in my life, and I can say that I've had a great experience. So I guess I would say how this all came about for this time period in my life was about 6-7 months ago. We sent these cover songs down to Roger Murr, Garth Fundus, and different producers and individuals down here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we got some positive responses back. In fact, Roger Moore said it was a great voice. He said it was just a little bit dated. He said what they want to hear these days are some original tunes, original music. And Lori and I, my manager, hadn't actually written any songs up to that point. Yeah, I've always had some songs in my head of what I could do, but never actually sat down and wrote them. So what happened is that she had an old Nashville music business directory from 1995, and she went through the business directory and she found a gentleman's name called Mark Dreyer. Well, it just turned out that Mark's name was throughout the entire book, so she said, this has got to be somebody good. So she contacted a couple of other individuals besides Mark Dreyer, the owner of the publication, and we came down to Nashville, Tennessee this past July in 2010. And she made some appointments for a couple other producers, and she also made one with Mr. Dreyer. And eventually we got a hold of Mark, and we made an appointment to see him at the hotel we were staying at. and he was actually pretty busy. You could tell that from the time that we met him. I mean, he's a guy that's got a lot going on. And we met him at our hotel at where we were staying at down on Church Street in Nashville, and he came to see us. And he gave us some ideas as to what we could do to actually get started in the music business. He gave us options as to how we could promote or how we could finance this whole deal with me singing. And I really got a lot of great ideas from it, and so did my manager Laine at the time. She's also my sister. And we sat down with Mark, and he was probably sitting there with us for an hour, hour and a half, and gave us some fantastic ideas as to how we could get this music thing started. And it was all great ideas. Lo and behold, I think much to my sister's thoughts and my thoughts when we were headed home back to Chicago after meeting with everybody down here, we were a little bit on the downside because we thought, you know, we shouldn't probably cover songs, but it turned out that we went home and she, you know, talked to me and we talked to each other about what was going on and whether or not we should pursue this any further because of the fact that we didn't have any original material. So I decided that for what it was worth for me at the time, instead of financing something for myself, I thought I would contact Mark Dreyer, our producer, and see what he could offer us for a package, because he did producing and things like that in his studio. So I told him what my budget was, and I said what I was willing to contribute towards my career. And before I knew it, we were down here in Nashville meeting with Mark, and we were co-writing songs over Skype. Actually, even before we actually even came, we were on Skype with Mark back and forth many times, and he encouraged us to write about 4 or 5 single original songs ourselves, and we came up with some pretty good songs that we thought were pretty good. I mean, we're amateur songwriters, and before I knew it, we were putting these songs to music from Skype, even only meeting Mark once. Most of this stuff was done back and forth through phone calls and or on Skype. And then we came down this past, August, September, October, somewhere around there. Anyway, and we met with Mark because we put a package together in a contract and set up some things, and we started recording the songs and going through all the material and actually putting music to these songs, because a lot of the songs that we had written, I had certain particular tunes in my mind that I thought would work for the songs, and it turned out that yes, a couple of them worked pretty well. And then lo and behold, some of the songs that we had, he came up with some fantastic tunes for these songs. One of the particular songs that we came up with, and I gotta tell you, I wasn't real keen on the idea, but he and Laine both thought a Christmas song at this time of year was going to be a great way to break into this and to have it as a single release. And he said, a Christmas song would be really good about this time. Christmas coming out, and it'd be a great way to break in the entertainment field and bring something in that was new and fresh. So I said, okay. But I wrote about 7 lines, or 5, 6, 7 lines down to a song, and I just put them to the side. And I brought them down to us, or with us, to Nashville when we came just, this time here in November. And we had recorded already some of the vocals, because we did the rough tracks for the songs that I was actually gonna sing with some of the musicians here in the studio. And we sat back, and he said, why don't you whip out those lines to that Christmas song that you've got. So I took the paper out, 5, 6 lines, and the lines start out, paper chains, Christmas lights, stringing popcorn in the night, and these were the kind of lines that I had for the song. And I was thinking it was going to be a slow song, and he was saying, well, let's do something with this. So we sat down, and probably in 40 minutes, between the 3 of us, myself, my sister Laine, and Mark, we came up with this fantastic Christmas song called "It's a Country Christmas." and he actually came up with the perfect music and tunes to this, because I was thinking it was going to be a slow song called Christmas Time on Lake Street is what I had originally thought it was going to be. And it turned out to be, it's a country Christmas, but it was more of an upbeat, up-tempo swing song that he came up with the music on. And boy, I got to tell you, it really is a fantastic song, and it was probably one of the best decisions in this process so far to introduce something like this and to have a release party that we're having for the particular song that we're doing. This, It's a Country Christmas, this Saturday at Donnelly's Wild West Town in Union, Illinois. But that's where we're at now, and it's all coming to fruition, and I'm really excited about the fact that we've got something that's pretty different, pretty special. We've given the CDs out to several people in the area down here in Nashville. They've actually played them in some of the areas down here, and they're really excited about it, and they seem to think that it's going to be a pretty good song. Hi, this is Laine Daniels, and we do entertainment shows for events, parties, and weddings. Check out LaineDaniels.com for more information.